What I'm about to show you is the most important single button in all of Path of Exile. By clicking this and understanding how to use it, you will revolutionize everything that you know about your build and have the most advanced build item finding experience in the game. All right, so the typical YouTuber excited fake voice, I'm just not good at that. But this is one of those topics that I think is really, really important. And it's one of those things that people just generally don't click on and don't watch. So I try to get your attention here. However, it is not clickbait. I firmly believe that this is one of the most important things that you can do for your build, for understanding the game, and for, just overall being better at, confidence of your knowledge and understanding exactly how you want to scale your build and what you want to do. And that is this trade for these items button right here. What it does is it calculates based on the parameters that you put in, creates a trade search for those items that will be based on certain weights for certain things that you're looking to min-max for your build. And this will be the best way for you to be able to find the cheapest, most efficient upgrades for your build, but also what I think is the most important thing, understanding just overall how your build works and what makes it better. Let me reset the POB. I was playing around with it a little bit. So let's get the true current state of my build right here. Here we go. So first off, this also does work for consoles. We'll talk about why, at least the understanding your build part does work for consoles as well. This is not PC only. In the console trade market, you'll be able to find the items that you're looking for. First off thing is you have to import your build, type in your character name. So this does work for console as well. You do need a PC. I think there is a web-based version of POB as well. You can look that up, but I'm just gonna be using the PC version. But even if you play on console, if you have a computer, you can install POB and still do this. I imagine most people are still using POB at all, even if they're playing on console. So yeah, pick what you're on, PC, Xbox, PS4, whatever, type in your account name and import right here. Then you will import your character, default POB stuff, but sometimes we got to teach all that. One thing that I'm not going to go over right now because it's out of the scope of this video is your build does need to be properly configured here. So if you're following a build guide, hopefully the build creator did properly configure it. They have the flask set up so it's on average correct. And they will also have up, what you expect from the flasks. When you do import, I just did a fresh import. Vol Molten Shell will be on. You got to be careful about those things. On a fresh import, sometimes stuff will get messed up. It'll have new gems and all that. Make sure that you set the DPS and whatever you're looking for properly. And then to the meat of the subject, this button right here. So what it's going to do is you will pick the slot that you want to create a search for. The easiest thing to really get to the meat of what I find the most interesting is to search for a jewel. So you want to pick the socket right here. Typically you want to search for where you have an empty jewel socket or where you have just a small jewel, because that's going to give you the biggest pool of just modifiers to search for. What you can look here is see the search weights. So by default, it is searching 100% for full DPS. It is trying to calculate the full DPS for your build. It is looking for items that are just giving you the most DPS. However, it will also have weights for things like effective hit pool. This is the default. If you're missing something like your resistances, if you're missing some block, if you have very low life, the EHP calculation will also be very helpful. Based on the style of build that you're playing, if you're an Ignite build or a Bleed build, I want to turn off full DPS here, and I'm actually going to turn on Bleed DPS because I am a Bleed build. The full DPS matters. I do sit there and just kind of attack, so it will add in things like on hit damage, attack speed, stuff like that. But since I'm a Bleed build, that's what I care about the most. But you can leave the defaults. That's totally fine. So click save right here. And then I'll look in my jewel sockets, and I have a basic jewel socket right here, Cobalt jewel right here, socket 4. Click find best. Now right here, there's the corrupted mods. There's the jewel type, base or abyss, whether you want cobalt or searching eye jewel, just leave that, I think, by default to any. And then you can set the max price, the type of thing, the max level, if you're looking for like a lower level item. What it's going to do is create a trade search for us. And that's a thing that we can still modify. So we give it a second, it'll calculate the best mod values. And then right here, it'll get you the URL for the trade search. Control click that. It'll open it up. I was definitely not watching Star Trek on a website that I shouldn't be. Don't look at that. Netflix, Paramount. Totally ignore that. That's totally legal. So what it'll do is create this trade search right here, this URL, and this is the search that it's set up. So it's doing a weighted sum right here. What that means is it is weighting per point of that modifier for a certain weight. And then that'll create a sum of the weight that says, hey, this is the overall strength of the item. So this is the dry part that people usually click over, but stay tuned. Keep watching this. This is very important. You'll be better at Path of Exile. You won't get baited by, random bad builds or anything. It'll help you understand your build. This is very, very important stuff to understand. So what is a weighted sum? When it's searching for an item, it will create this weighted sum, which is adding up multipliers of per point value of that multiplied by this, and then it's added up as a sum. So basically what this is saying is it's saying, when damaging ailments deal damage faster, 1 point of that is worth 4.9 points over here. We'll just do even numbers right here. So let's say we find a jewel here that has 2% faster bleed. This will equal 2 times 5. We're just going to round up a little bit. So 2 times 5 equals 10. So that's going to be 10 in the weighted sum. And let's say we can look down here. Hey, it has life. We actually care about life as well. Let's say it has 5 life and it's 0.2. So 5 life equals 0.2 times 5 equals 1. So the total weighted sum on that item will be 11. And then we can sort by that weighted sum, and it's kind of a way just to compare items and say this item is better than another. So if one item maybe had 1% faster bleed, but 50 life, right? 1% times 5, that would just be 5 right there. But 50 life times 0.2, that would be 10. That would be a total weighted sum of 15, and that item with 50 life and 1% faster bleed would be weighted above the item that had 5% faster bleed and 1 life. And so that's a way that we can compare the items, and then you can manually configure this yourself. What I usually do if I'm just looking to min-max my damage, you can turn off the EHP entirely in this calculation. So you can adjust the search weights. If we only care about bleed DPS, we can go here, turn off EHP entirely, and then that way it's only giving us the damage modifiers. Or you could do the opposite and just say, give me only EHP, turn off damage, I just want pure defense. And that's another way it'll look for block, it'll look for spell suppression, things like that. And it'll modify that and value that more. This is a really good way. Even if this is all you take away from the video, you want to understand your build. And actually the next thing that I actually had on this notepad, I was doing this on stream last night. Very, very often I get people coming in chat and saying, hey, what should I go for? How do I upgrade my build? Is it more damage? Is it increased damage? Is it damage over time multiplier? Is it faster ignites? What is the thing that upgrades my build? And that's what this answers. So let's come up with kind of a realistic example right here. Let's say I have 300% increased damage, as well as a 30% more multiplier. Let's say we have a base of 10 damage, and that's going to be the easiest way to calculate that. So 10 damage times 300% increased, so that's going to be times 4, and then times a 30% more multiplier, that's times 1.3. So that's going to be 40 times 1.3, which is going to be a 52 right here. If we're looking at this, and we can say, hey, I could level up my gem and get that 30% more multiplier to a 40% more multiplier, or I could go from 300% increase to 50% increase. So if you're looking at this, right, if we do this to 50% increased, that's a lot more increased damage. Let's say I get a really, really big jewel, 50% increased damage right here. Or I have a level 15 gem and I can level it up to level 20, and that will go from a 30 to 35% total more on this single multiplier. Which one is going to give me more damage? And something like this, with dot multi, very similar with the dot multi with the more multiplier, this will tell you exactly what is proportionally going to be better for your damage. So in this example, we have 10 damage times, we'll do the first one, times 4.5 times 1.3, 45 times 1.3, that is 58.5 damage. Whereas if we actually just got more multiplier, 10 times 4 times 1.35, so 40 times 1.35, this is 54. So in this example, the more increased would actually be better. However, if we had even more increased, we would flip-flop that a little bit because it's the proportional increase. And the easiest example would be to use very small numbers. So what if we have 10 damage times 10 more multiplier times a 2 more multiplier, right? So this would be 10 times 10, 100 times 2, that's 200. Now, which number do we increase by the same flat value that will increase our damage? So if we did 10 times 12 times 2, that would be 120 times 2, that's 240, right? We just increased that one more multiplier by 2. However, if we do 10 times 10 times 4, right? We did the exact same, increased it by 2. This is 100 times 4, that's 400. It's really about the proportional increase between these multipliers and how they interact with each other. And what this tool does is it gives you a snapshot of your build, and it will very quickly, you don't have to do the math yourself. You don't have to use the calculator. Use POB itself to generate a search that allows you to understand how those values will impact your build. And then you can very quickly at a glance just say, hey, I need more dot multi. Is increased damage better, or is dot multi better, or is crit multi better, or whatever is better for your build? So anyway, to show you guys how to use this a little bit and how I would use it is, first off, I would turn off all the low value things. Usually it's sorted by the highest to lowest. Not exactly, but you can, usually the really low value ones are down here. And you can also kind of come up with your own calculation as well, like things that you just know you don't care about, things that you know don't really affect my build or are going to be kind of like low impact or less interesting. If we are just going for our single target damage, we do want to kind of turn off these defensive ones. As much as it would be really good, it is weighting that against the EHP multiplier, that weight on there on the original search that we created. And we want to do something like this. Now, what this is going to do, there's also this minimum value right here. What this does is it calls the very low value nodes or the very low value items that you don't want to show up. And actually, you want to kind of make this number as high as you can get away with to keep it within a decent search pool. So you'll notice right here, 10,000 matched. What that does is more than 10,000 matched. It's not able, the database is not able to search across every single item very quickly and very efficiently. So also on their end, they kind of cull some things off as well. So you're actually going to be missing some items from your search because it's just searching against every single item that can potentially exist. But if we raise that minimum sum, it's going to drop off all the low value items that aren't going to show up in the search anyway, or that you're never going to care about. And that way you can get it to a smaller pool that's going to be more efficient, and you're going to make sure you're going to be inclusive for all of the items that you could be looking for. Basically, the short of it is you want to make sure that minimum sum number is above a certain threshold that, for an item you would consider actually buying. I turned off all those low value ones that we don't care about. We still have over 10,000 search. So you want to click right here, click on the sum. It'll search by the sum, highest to lowest. And we can see right here, 69 is about the highest. What I like to do here is I'll scroll down a little bit and I'll say, okay, it very quickly goes down to about 50, 56. So we only really care about the high value ones. So I'm going to make this number, I'm just going to say 50. We're going to redo the search as well. Don't click search too many times too quickly. You will get throttled. And now you can see that we have 2016 matched. Oh, that was 8 years ago. Oof. So now you can see that we have 2016 matched. And we also now, this is why we did the culling and we made that minimum search higher. Now we see a max of 79. Remember, we had only had a nice little 69 before. That's because it wasn't able to search all of the items because there are too many in the pool. So you want to make sure you set that minimum number to something that is more reasonable. And this will give you a very, very good snapshot of what's out there and what you might want to buy to upgrade your build. Now, the next thing you want to do is set a max price of things that you would ever buy. So I would never buy anything above 5 divines right here. I want to keep it kind of budget. And so we do that. You can see that now the search got cut in half or so, a little bit less than half. And yeah, cut off a couple of them. But now we have a pool of jewels that I would actually consider buying. And then from here, you can kind of scroll up and down, find things like, hey, maybe I care about attack speed a little bit. Maybe that's not showing up in the search and I care about that. Now, the next thing that we can do is add a specific group of modifiers that we want no matter what. So no matter what, I want max life. And you might have to lower your minimum right here because now, the pool is going to kind of, one of the modifiers is taken up by life. So your minimum weighted sum that shows up will be lower, or rather the maximum is going to be lower because one of those modifiers is now taken up by max life. But if I want max life no matter what, now we can do a search. And right here, now we narrowed it even more, 500 total of our search right here. We want to reverse search by the sum. And now we get the really juicy jewels. Now we have jewels that guarantee have max life no matter what. And it's also searching with that weighted sum. And yeah, this to me is one of the most powerful things for searching for items in Path of Exile, as well as understanding your build. And you can do the same thing with items. You can do the same thing with armor. You can go in here, you can trade for these items. You can select armor, adjust the search weight for just EHP, right? So if we want to go here, we want to turn off bleed DPS entirely, and we'll go to EHP or even raw life or something like that. We'll go to EHP mod weight of 1. Then we'll search for a body armor right here, execute, create this search right here, open it up. And then we search by the sum, 10,000 plus matched. We see about a sum of 497. We'll set a minimum here of like 450. Search right there. And now we can find body armors that are giving us the most overall EHP for our build, which is pretty cool. And then the next step that I would recommend for anything that you're searching for your build, like if you want to know if what an item does for your build before you buy, always try before you buy. Click this little copy icon right here, and then you can go into the items here, just Control V right here. It'll create the item and you can add it to your build. So I can see that if I replace this jewel right here, let's say this guy right here, what was the one that we just bought? The Dragon Star? Dragon Star, yep. So if I replace this one with the Dragon Star, I mouse over here and I can see, oh, I get 4.6 more bleed DPS by replacing that existing jewel with a new jewel. And, or we can also see in a vacuum, what it would add by itself. And to do that, we could add just like an empty jewel socket, like up here, and then mouse over this. You can right click if you didn't know, you can right click right here. It'll bring you to the jewel. And we can see just in a vacuum what it does without replacing anything else. This jewel by itself gives me about 6% bleed DPS and as well as 150 flat total life. And you can use that to really ascertain whether something is good for your build. All right, I talked a lot. I don't know if this is gonna be too dry or too boring or whatever. Hopefully the intro is exciting enough to get people to watch it. I firmly believe, we'll just keep this on the screen. I do firmly believe that understanding how to do this, there's additional things like being able to sort by full DPS with any slot here, go to your weapon, sort by full DPS. These things can kind of lead you astray, but POB has all of these really strong, important tools that are like the tricks of the trade that build makers use. And you can use it as a build consumer or someone that wants to modify a build, make your own builds in the future. POB, it is such a powerful tool. The best builds in the game are made with POB because people understand how to use these tools, and it will show you the light and the right path to go and help you be really efficient and in understanding everything. The short of it that I really want to get across, at the very least, you will save so much money finding the right searches, finding the right items that are best for the build. You can find these incredible steals that will give you 10, 15, 20% more damage for your build that you didn't even know you were missing. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Thank you all the patrons for supporting content like this. So I'm going to go get ready for the stream. I'm very excited about the T-17s getting nerfed. We're going to be able to blast them, and it's going to be really fun. So hope to see you guys there, and have a good day. Goodbye.